Mountaineer Nation, let's ride.
But Don Nealon's Mountaineers enjoy walking in where angels fear to tread. As the hills of West Virginia resound with the sounds of Golden Blue football. Here is Harris in trouble. Stiff arms. A would-be tackler comes down over the 25 to 20. Goes around about it to 15 to 10 to 5. A touchdown, West Virginia. He did it.
Fakes the Slater one-on-one with a defender. Look at Pat White.
West Virginia football. You know what that's about. They don't know what it's about. West Virginia football. Put on our table.
Let them know. Leave no doubt tonight. Leave no doubt tonight. No doubt. They shouldn't have played the old Golden Blue.
It is a great night to be a Mountaineer wherever you may be.
What's going on, Mountaineer Nation? Welcome back into the Country Roads webcast. Special edition live stream here. May upload this to the audio side on the podcast version as well. But as always, I'm Jordan Cruz. Breaking news from the WVU athletic department today, so had to do a live stream to talk about it. Not only the hiring of the athletic director, but an interesting report regarding Neal Brown coming out as well. And we're going to touch on both of those. But Wren Baker named WVU's new VP and athletic director, new vice president there as well. Broke today. I was actually at work, but worked out well because, the university's official press release actually out by the time I got home and decided, got a chance to do this live stream. So I'll share my screen with you guys here in a few minutes. We'll run down the university's press release in regards to the hiring of Wren Baker. Just kind of read through that with you guys just to kind of fill you guys in as well as myself. I haven't had a chance to, research him too much. Then also have another tweet kind of regarding the reaction from the North Texas fan base and how they felt about him leaving and how they kind of regarded him as their athletic director. We'll share that with you guys as well. And then, of course, the report on Neal Brown, just kind of for a rundown of what we're going to do as far as the schedule in this live stream. But, of course, throughout all that time, your questions, comments, concerns, always welcome here. Drop them in the chat there in the comment section. I'll address them throughout as they pop up, and you guys can kind of guide the conversation throughout this live stream without, except for, the talking points that I have. Other than that, it's on you guys. Whatever you guys want to talk about, we'll talk about. I'd love to hear your all's thoughts on the hire for West Virginia, the reports of Neal Brown. And if you don't know what those are, we're going to get to them momentarily. Give me one quick second here, drinking my coffee, and we'll get to that'll give people a chance to roll in here. And then that'll give us about 5 minutes in. We'll start. I'll roll through the university's press release in regards to the hiring of Wren Baker. All right, but appreciate you guys tuning in on whichever one of the Country Roads platforms you guys are tuned in on here, streaming live on the Country Roads webcast, Facebook, YouTube, and Twitch. If you're on the YouTube, do us a favor, hit that thumbs up, drop us a like here. Really helps not only this video's performance, but it helps the channel in general because it helps future videos performances as well. Subscribe if you haven't already. If you're a Mountaineer fan, it helps us, helps you as well because it gets more of this Mountaineer sports content out to Mountaineer Nation. Let's go to the chat here and see what we got. Let's see. Luis Burgo says no sound. So everybody hearing me all right? Got no sound on Luis's end. Let me know in the chat if y'all can hear me all right, if you got my audio. Mic doesn't look like it's muted. I'm not muted on the screen. So yeah, Kenny says he has sound. Luis, go out and come back in. So at least everybody else appears to be hearing me. Maybe it's just on your end then, Luis, in that case. Luke Bart says he has sound as well. Okay. Appreciate you guys confirming that. But anyways, catch up on some of your all's comments real quick, and then I'll run through the university's press release. Here's what I think. I believe Gordon Gee is more of a basketball man than a football man, like some others of ACC that doesn't want to invest in football when it's the moneymaker of college, period. Yeah, I mean, I agree. Football is definitely your main revenue sport there. It's what generates the most money for your university for sure. And, this hire, Kenny, you make a great point there. He is, a guy that has more basketball experience. He's actually a former basketball coach, and he's actually never hired made a football coaching hire. He's made basketball coaching hires and good ones, but, I'll have to confirm that, but, that's what I've heard, is that he's never made a football coaching hire as well. So, like I said, I don't know too much about him. Reading this press release from the university is going to tell me a lot. Basically, all I know about him, he's from North Texas, really good at fundraising, and really kind of check the boxes I think they were looking to check when it came to fundraising and NIL with this hire. I think that was kind of their main goal. So I think they did what they wanted to do and achieved what they wanted to do. Getting it from the group of 5 ranks, though, I think some people are disappointed, especially with some of the names that were being thrown around. But Kenny says, then expect the new hire to come in at the AD and do the impossible. Our program is in turmoil. Who could get the program that isn't attractive on the field? No offense, WVU players. Great point as well, Kenny. A lot of people said they're surprised he even took the job, but I think West Virginia is a more sought after place than we realize. I think right now we see it seems like a bit of a mess within the athletic department, specifically because of football. But at least we can say one thing: Wren Baker's up to the challenge. He was not scared away by the situation that West Virginia has with the coaching staff in question and stuff. My main issue with it, which I'm sure I'll touch on it more as we go along here, is the report of Neal Brown coming back. I just don't understand what's the point of the move at all. Then if you're going to, you fire Shane Lyons to bring in a new athletic director because maybe this guy helps more with NIL, and if he doesn't, it pays off, then awesome. But to me, it's like, but you're still saddling him with Neal Brown. So what changes for us as fans, as far as, West Virginia football fans heading into 2023? Not much, it appears. We'll see what, moving forward, everything flux and can change. But right now, it appears not much. I think if their decision was our football program's bad, we either need to fire Neal Brown or fire Shane Lyons, I wish they would have, went with the former rather than the latter. Because to me, I'm looking ahead to 2023. It's a super tough schedule. Neal Brown certainly has a very hot seat. He's going to be on a short leash. I mean, so we start 1-2 and then they fire him next year. Then what was the point of keeping him? Which we'll get into more later with these reports and stuff. But I don't know. I'm not as mad about the hire as I am just the whole situation in general. And just seems kind of to me like they didn't really have a plan. They're just kind of flying by the seat of their pants. I could be wrong, what I'm saying? But just from the outside looking in, that's what it appears like to me. I don't know. What I'm saying? I don't know. Kenny, you appear to agree with me there. In my opinion, this is destroying our football program, period. Yeah, I mean, I don't want to say that for sure but it's possible for sure. This is definitely a very important hire for West Virginia, moving forward with the future of the football program for one, but, athletics in general. This hire is very important. And, if you do end up making another football head coaching hire, that's going to be very important as well. We'll see what happens. James Blankenship says, I think it's a good hire. However, the timing of the whole thing doesn't make sense. Agreed. It's just really, that's what to me kind of has me scratching my head. Isn't the hire? I think Wren Baker has great capabilities to be a good athletic director and a successful athletic director at West Virginia from what I know thus far, which isn't a ton because, like I said, I don't really study athletic directors then like you would, coaches or anything like that. But yeah, the whole timing doesn't make sense. And just the whole situation in general is just, I don't know. It's baffling, really. If you're a Mountaineer fan, a member here in Mountaineer Nation, looking, from the outside looking in, especially I think just with Shane Lyons. I mentioned that yesterday with the Shane Lyons interview that came out with Hoppy Kirchhoff and the scathing things he had to say about the administration, about Gordon Gee, and then of course then that same day, the news broke that West Virginia is not going after a Power 5 athletic director because people were talking Rob Mullins and Pat Chun. It was going group of 5. And then, of course, ended up now with Wren Baker. I think a lot of people, not necessarily that they didn't have him on their board, but I know for me personally, what I can tell you is I received a text message yesterday, said a hire was probably coming today. They didn't know who. Everyone that told me that a hire was probably coming today or tomorrow didn't know the name. So I think this was pretty tight-lipped within the, administration wise until it was the hire was ready to lock down. Because even you can go look on our Twitter at WVU Country Roads and pull down James's comment here so you guys can see it down there on the bottom. But I put out on our Twitter this morning, a list of a few group of 5 names that I heard were candidates. So I don't know if those were people that were interviewed or what have you, but there were definitely a list of group of 5 candidates that I seen, and Wren Baker wasn't on that list. Now, I don't know if that's because the fact of the list that I saw was just candidates who had been interviewed, but were not, the leader. And I think, in the comment that I saw was kind of prefaced that way, that these people are candidates, but none of them are necessarily the front runner. I put that list out on our Twitter. Didn't get a chance. Like I said, I've worked all morning, didn't really get a chance to check my phone until a few hours later. I check it. I see a response about a name of Wren Baker. I research it. And by that time, Sports Illustrated already reported the hire, and Wren Baker was coming in from North Texas. So, just as soon as we knew, a couple days ago that it was going to be a group of 5 candidate, likely to be West Virginia's athletic director, here we are 48 hours later and the hire's made. And in my personal opinion, what's kind of baffling to me about this is I thought that the 3 or 4 week timeline that they'd set up, which they met with this hire, that they did that so that they could potentially have that athletic director come in and evaluate the program and move on from Neal Brown. But according to reports, that's not really the situation. So to me, I'm a bit perplexed as to the situation and to the plan of, those powers that be at West Virginia. I'd agree with you. The timing's weird and just the plan in general is weird. But Harvey Barker says there aren't any viable coaching candidates too. Yeah, good point. At this point, there's probably not, but there's also an argument to be made about West Virginia waiting too long to make the moves that they've made, whether it be the firing of Shane Lyons or in general, if they would have went, look at Nebraska. They've, went with the move to fire their coach mid-season and, got progressive, got ahead of things, ended up with Matt Rule. And, if West Virginia wanted, had Shane Lyons in question and Neal Brown in question and thought that they may make a move on either one of those, they should have pulled the trigger earlier. Just my personal opinion, from the outside looking in. But I'd agree with you. Viable coaching candidates right now is definitely an argument. The coaching carousel, it's almost too late. So, like at this point, I think, keeping Neal Brown may be the better move just because of how late in the game it is. But I don't think it's the best move overall and what I wouldn't want to do personally. I think just right now, with how the fan base sits, how divided it is, it has the potential to really hurt the program moving forward next year. If, Neal Brown returns, could possibly hurt season ticket sales, go on down the line, especially if Neal Brown returns and no staff changes are mandated or anything that could potentially, reignite the fan base. Because if they think, bringing in a new athletic director is going to reignite the fan base as far as West Virginia football fans are concerned, I think they're sorely mistaken on that one. We'll get into this press release. I know I told you guys about 5 minutes in, but appreciate you guys tuning in and chiming in. Got good engagement here, so went a little bit longer, but I did want to read through the university's press release on the hiring of Wren Baker, then get into, the reaction on that, and then, of course, the reports about Neal Brown. So I want to touch on those. Let's get to the first talking point, but by all means, continue, drop your comments, questions, concerns there in the chat. Any of them that I didn't get to already, I will come back and touch on those, and then any that come in along the way. Appreciate you guys tuning in here. But let me try and share this screen with you guys here. Hold on just 1 second. There we are. All right. This is the university's press release on the hiring. Luckily came out in between the time of the hiring happening and me getting home from work and starting the live stream. But let me put it full screen so you guys can see it better here, and we'll read through it. Okay. Here we are. Today, WVU University Relations, the university press release coming out just before 2 Eastern today. West Virginia University has named Wren Baker as its next vice president and director of intercollegiate athletics. So I think that's something that's not been reported a lot. I didn't even know until, I came up and pulled this up to share with you guys that he was also named the vice president as well. So, it's kind of a dual position. But Baker comes to Morgantown from the University of North Texas, where he has been the vice president and athletics director since 2016. With previous stops at Missouri, Memphis, Northwest Missouri, and Rogers State, Baker brings more than 20 years of experience to WVU as its 13th director of athletics. Believe, if I'm not mistaken, Rogers State was the school where he also served as their basketball coach in addition to their athletic director. Here's a statement from Gordon Gee. I am thrilled to welcome Wren Baker to the West Virginia University family as our new athletic director, and I have no doubt his personality and energy will connect with our student athletes and coaches as well as our campus community and alumni. Continuing on here, he says, when we began this search, we determined to find someone who could lead in the modern realities of intercollegiate athletics and build on the legacy of his predecessors. We wanted someone who clearly understood the dynamics of a fast-changing athletics environment and had found success being at the forefront of this new world that includes managing NIL and the portal. We looked at a number of well-qualified candidates, and at the end of the day, Wren met every one of our needs. Baker will have oversight of 18 varsity sports, a department budget of more than $90 million, approximately 250 employees, and nearly 500 student athletes. I'm incredibly grateful to President Gee, Rob Alsop, the search committee, and board of governors for the opportunity to serve as vice president and director of athletics at West Virginia University. Wren Baker said. So this is the statement from Wren Baker himself. I know he has a press conference scheduled for, I believe, Monday, if I'm not mistaken. I think it's at 10 a.m. Don't quote me on the time exactly, but I know it's coming Monday. But here's his brief statement. Continuing on, he says, WVU boasts a powerful brand reputation and a storied academic and athletic history. My family and I can't wait to get to Morgantown to build relationships and help take Mountaineer athletics to even greater heights. All right, now getting into the bio a little bit here. Hold on one second. I'm going to take a drink of my coffee real quick, just pause with you guys, and then we'll read through his bio here. Like I said, I hadn't learned too much about Wren Baker, so I'm reading through this for the first time with you guys and learning about him myself. But just let me take a swig of this coffee here. All right. Moving on now. Here we are. A little bit of his bio now in regards to the new West Virginia Athletic Director, Wren Baker. We are reading through the press release from the university if you're just hopping in here on the live stream side of things. But here we are at North Texas, 7 programs, men's cross country, volleyball, women's soccer, football, men's basketball, women's golf, and softball, combined to win 17 conference or division championships during Baker's tenure. And the overall athletic department's winning percentage in the last year was the best in the modern era. In 2019, every team achieved a winning percentage for the first time in school history. He led 18 head coaching searches, and his hires have a combined winning percentage of nearly 70%. UNT student athletes excelled in the classroom under Baker's leadership, posting top APR scores and setting 4 consecutive department graduation success rate records. Every team recorded a cumulative GPA of 3.0 or higher, with the spring 2022 department GPA hitting a 3.206 average. Baker also led fundraising efforts at Baker also led record fundraising years at North Texas. The school registered its four best fundraising years in its history, and the overall top 5 largest gifts at the University of North Texas came under Baker's leadership. He got North Texas athletics to a school record for fundraising in a single year, nearly doubling the previous department's record. And that, in my opinion, is probably the key reason that he was hired as West Virginia's athletic director. We know that was one of their main things here. I'll highlight that little paragraph for you guys there in case you want to read over it yourself. I know it's probably hard to follow along there, me, as I stumbled over my words a little bit, as I tend to do. If you follow the show, you know that already. But continuing on here in the release, ticket revenue increased by 125% under Baker, and football attendance grew by 71%, while men and women's basketball crowds grew by more than 60%. Additional achievements at North Texas included a 5-year strategic plan, new 20-year facilities master plan and lucrative contracts for multimedia rights, licensing, apparel, and equipment. Originally from Valiant, Oklahoma, Baker earned his bachelor's degree in education from Southeastern Oklahoma State in 2001, where he was a member of the honors program. He went on to earn his master's degree in education leadership from Oklahoma State in 2003, so Oklahoma State grad. There's familiarity with the Big 12 conference right there. He and his wife, Heather, a Bachito, Oklahoma native, have 2 daughters, Addison and Reagan. Baker begins his duties at WVU on December 19th. So there's the date when he officially takes over. You're looking at about a little over 2 weeks from now, just under 3 weeks, December 19th. 6-year agreement through 2028, December 31st, 2028. Earn a yearly compensation of just over $1 million at 1.1 plus incentives. A little bit of the contract information there, and then a list West Virginia's 13 athletic directors in the school's history, Wren Baker being the third to take over since Oliver Luck in 2010. The most recent West Virginia athletic director now, Wren Baker, coming to West Virginia from North Texas. So there's a bit of the press release, learning a bit about him. Love the fundraising efforts. Like I said, I think that's probably the main reason that he was chosen, but interesting to see what he can do. I know, as Kenny mentioned earlier, he has a familiarity with basketball. He was actually a former basketball coach. But I want to get into the reaction from kind of the North Texas side of things, just to let you know how they kind of regard him. But before I do that, I figured some of you guys may want to know a little bit about the candidates that West Virginia was kind of targeting. I know I mentioned earlier, I put out a tweet on our Twitter. I'm just going to pull up our Twitter here and see if I can pull up that tweet directly for you guys that I tweeted out this morning. So these were some of the candidates. You know, the initial 7 names, if you've been following the show and the channel for a while. The initial 7 names, of course, that I put out on that list was kind of, I think, the initial targets for West Virginia. And I told you guys, if one of those 7 names were hired, it would probably happen, you know, within the realm of the final game of the football season, which to me meant Saturday, Sunday, Monday range. And when that didn't happen, of course, when I recorded the Oklahoma State review and reaction podcast, updated you guys that it probably wouldn't be one of those 7 names, and that is moving beyond, and of course, to a group of 5 candidates. Sorry, trying to multitask here, but to a group of 5 candidates. And at the time, I didn't know any of those names. Of course, I learned some of the names that West Virginia was targeting in the group of 5 level. Also learned that Matt Borman, who wasn't a sitting AD, was also still considered a candidate at that time. But these are some of the group of 5 names here. Let me try and pull up here. I'm pulling up our Twitter on the other screen here. But these are some of the names that West Virginia considered, I think, from the group of 5 ranks before ultimately settling on Wren Baker. So maybe if you want to, you know, look up some of these people, you can, and compare and contrast to who West Virginia ultimately hired. Let me try and share this screen with you guys, and then we'll get into the reaction from the North Texas side of things from our friend, you know, Ethan Bach, who put that on Twitter. Covers West Virginia basketball over there at WV Sports Now, which we're part of their network there podcast wise, and they do great Mountaineer sports coverage there at WVSportsNow.com. Check them out as well. Get to that momentarily. But before, these are some of the candidates West Virginia had considered after either candidates moved on from them or they moved on from candidates that were, you know, more in the Power 5 ranks in the 7 names that I showed you previously. I'm not going to pull that list up right now. You guys that have followed along know already off the top of my head, those 7 names, of course, the top 2 being Rob Mullins and Pat Chun that everyone were talking about. Rob Mullins, the Oregon athletic director, Patrick Chun, the Washington State athletic director. Then you had names on that list like Kelly Zinn, Kevin Miller at Georgia, Matt Borman, blanking on the 2 other names that were on that list right now, but Whit Babcock, can't think of the 7th name off the top of my head, but anyways, non-issue right now. I'll digress on that. That was kind of the initial list, and West Virginia, you know, was targeting those. And if you heard an announcement sooner than what we've heard it was probably going to be one of those 7, is what I'd always said. But then after that, it was reported West Virginia moving on to more of kind of a group of 5 search. Of course, that was shared on our end with the athletic director search live stream, an update YouTube video, and also shared that update on the podcast side of things on season 5, episode 152 with the Oklahoma State review and reaction episode. After that, I learned of some of those group of 5 names Virginia was targeting. So if you're interested to know some of the candidates West Virginia was targeting, in addition to their hire, which was Wren Baker. Here, we'll share this with you guys. Now, one more time, sharing the screen here once it gets pulled up. And this will be a running theme throughout this live stream, is just trying to share this with you guys. But okay, as you see, these were kind of some of the other names that were considered. Like I said, Matt Borman was one that had been thrown around. Pat White endorsed personally on Twitter. Believe he's at LSU, if I'm not mistaken, but he's been at WVU in the past. Really good at fundraising. Adrian Dow, University of Nebraska, University of Nebraska, Omaha, youngster name been thrown around. Jared Binko. The rest of these all group of 5 athletic directors. Can't remember exactly which program for each one, but you had Jared Binko. I can't remember where he was at right off. Todd Stewart, I want to say, is Western Kentucky. Brian White, Florida Atlantic's athletic director. John Cunningham, Cincinnati's athletic director. Charlie Cobb, can't remember that one exactly. Charlie Cobb and Binko, I'm unsure of. But Julie Cromer, I believe, is Ohio University. But those are the kind of some of the other candidates that it was believed West Virginia had maybe interviewed, or at least was, putting out feelers about. Don't know how soon they went after Wren Baker from the group of 5 ranks, if he was their top candidate. And these were just some of the names on the list. But I had been told these were also possibilities once the search moved to a group of 5 rank, type search for West Virginia, as far as they were kind of really wanting to get a sitting athletic director this time around. I think that's what kind of ultimately rolled out names like Matt Borman and Kevin Miller, Kelly Zinn. But ultimately, West Virginia decides on Wren Baker. But, just kind of want to share that with you guys that are kind of interested like me, that love, coaching searches, candidates, hot boards, things like that. I know this time of the year, the coaching carousel is always fun. Find myself on Football Scoop a lot, looking through there. But anyways, I'll catch up on some comments here with you guys, and then I want to show you guys the reaction, so you kind of know the feel of how Wren Baker is regarded on the North Texas side of things from fans that know him and people that know him. And then, of course, last but certainly not least, we got to get into the other report that kind of slid under the rug, accompanied with the Wren Baker hire, which is the Neal Brown set to return in 2023. And that will be when the athletic director conducts his evaluation, is during that year, apparently. We'll get into more on that later, but those are just kind of what's on tap. But let me catch up with you guys in the comments. Appreciate you guys tuning in and chiming in here. Drop your questions, comments, concerns, thoughts on the hire, anything you want to drop there in the comments. We'll address it as we continue throughout here on this emergency podcast / live stream here on the Country Roads webcast. Wren Baker, West Virginia's new athletic director, Neal Brown, reportedly set to return in 2023. But let me see if I can find where I left off here in the comments. Here we are. Luis Burgos, I don't know nothing about this guy. All I know is he needs to be innovative. Yeah, absolutely. I think that's the main key for West Virginia right now. We've talked about it in the past here. I think for West Virginia right now, it's been a developmental program in the past. You certainly don't have to lose that aspect of your program. It's just harder to maintain, because you can't maintain your entire roster over 4 years. Hopefully West Virginia is able to maintain, key players and continue that developmental aspect. But I think in turn with that, if West Virginia wants to be successful moving forward in the future, they have to really become good at NIL and winning in the transfer portal and that type of market. And I think those type of innovations is really going to fall on this athletic director. And they're really counting on Wren Baker to help them in that aspect, whether it be fundraiser wise or anything, to lure, more talent to West Virginia. Because, say what you will about Gordon Gee and the WVU administration right now. I know that's a hot, topic with the Shane Lyons interview and things like that, people on either side of the fence of that. But at least if they are indeed doing this, in regards to a fundraising NIL aspect, as Silas says here, Kuz said it before, as many have, and Kuz always has great insight, of course. One of the best that covers WVU and the best that covers college football, in my opinion. But Lyons wasn't all in with the NIL. Yeah, I think that's what his, moving on from him was about, and bringing in this guy. And I think, as Louis said, and being innovative, NIL is going to play a big part in that. And I think, my personal opinion on that, Shane Lyons works closely with the NCAA, and I think he was just doing things a little bit more by the book rather than utilizing some potential loopholes that West Virginia could utilize and be more aggressive, quote unquote, because I think that's how Gordon Gee put it in the NFL market, in the transfer portal market. So maybe bringing in a younger guy, like someone termed it innovative, is a way that West Virginia is able to do that and take more advantage of these NIL and transfer portal markets than they have in the past. Truman Washington says Gee needs to go. I believe it's past his time. Another debate. That's the thing. I'm trying to stick to the main topic here of being Wren Baker, the athletic director, and Neal Brown as much as possible. But there's all kinds of ways you could divert this conversation, Truman, and I appreciate you chiming in here, Truman Worthington. Don't think I've seen you here before. Hope you like the video. Hope you subscribe and come back for more Mountaineer sports content. We got a bunch of it coming here at the Country Roads webcast in the future. But having said that, that's definitely a way you could take this conversation, especially with the things that came out in regards to Shane Lyons. And if some of the things he said are true, I definitely have some gripes with Gordon Gee just based on a principles and morality standpoint. But that's an argument to be made as well. There's many ways to make, you can even look at this hire in comparison to Shane Lyons. Is it a lateral move? Is it an improvement? I haven't, studied that enough to make a comment there one way or another, but there's all kinds of topics to be, discussed now. So maybe that means more live streams moving forward in the future with you guys, here in the coming weeks, try and do them more often so we can discuss more of these different topics, because I definitely think Gordon Gee and the WVU administration is a topic that needs to be discussed. Shane Lyons, the new hire, Neal Brown's future. Is that a good decision? We can go all kinds of ways. So, I agree. That's definitely something that's arguable and can be talked about. Harvey Baker says they aren't any viable coaching candidates. Already touched on that. Actually, pulled that one up earlier. My bad. Silas asked, does JT play for WVU next year, or will Brown move on to one of the younger guys? No. JT's done. I'm calling it now. I mean, I could be wrong. I've been wrong before. I'll be wrong again. But I think you're looking at Garrett Green or Nico Marchiol next year behind center for the Mountaineers. I think if JT plays college football again, you'll see him hit the transfer portal, go somewhere else. But I think there's a good chance that maybe he just tries to go on to the NFL. I think the main thing for him this year was maybe showing scouts that he could stay healthy, and he more or less did that. And even if he was injured at the late season and continued to play, I think that's why, because that was his objective, to show that he can make it through a season healthy. And I think he's done that on his terms. Whether he was, truly healthy or not is another discussion to be had. But as far as him at WVU next season, no, don't see it. Mason Mills says the timing is because of the NIL and recruiting. If he's as good as they say, it could be the recruiting. Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. I think you're talking about Neal Brown there, in my opinion. And Neal Brown has done a good job recruiting West Virginia, hopefully to solidify a really good class this year, here in about 3 weeks. So I definitely think, the timing is a part of Neal Brown sticking around possibly. Eric Cruz, what's going on, Dad? Appreciate you always chiming in. Trying to keep recruits and current players from leaving. Also reason to keep Brown because he can talk. Yep. That's one thing we do know about Neal Brown if we know nothing else, right? Because he certainly does talk me into believing the team's going to be great every preseason, as probably a lot of Mountaineer Nation. And Neal Brown, I think, has been maybe at this time after 4 seasons compared to a used car salesman. Some of you even use the term snake oil salesman. I'm not going to go that far, but Neal Brown certainly can win any interview, win any press conference, I believe. So definitely think that's why, for sure. Have to make some staff changes and be decent names also. Yeah, I would be extremely surprised if the reports of Neal Brown coming back indeed do end up to be true, because I think this is, in my opinion, a situation that's just much in flux right now, can change hour to hour, day to day, minute to minute, week to week type thing. So Neal Brown right now may be safe, but when you get the new athletic director here and he's here for a few days, he may say, nah, I'm moving on this. I want to bring in someone else. Who's to say that doesn't happen? But as it stands right now, I don't think you can bring back Neal Brown and bring back his entire staff. If you want to, help season ticket sales a little bit, help the fan base, you got to make some type of change, in my opinion. Jake Lizzie 1999 says, I hope Golden Blue Dude's head doesn't explode over Neal Brown. Yeah, I'm going to be waiting to watch and see, his next video on the reports of Neal Brown returning. Excited to see that one. And I'm going to get to those reports here in a minute, momentarily. Just trying to catch up here in chat real quick. Jake Glizzy, I think all W fans knew at the end of the season Neal Brown was coming back. Golden Blue Dude will survive. Yeah, I think we may have all known it in the back of our minds, but also we were all really, I think, holding out hope and well, I guess I'm speaking for myself and kind of projecting it onto everyone else. But I think me personally, like I was holding out hope that West Virginia makes this athletic director hire fast enough that they are able to, he comes in and moves on from the coaching staff. Like in my mind, the 3 to 4 week timeline that they, of course, have now met was so that they could bring the new AD in and then fire Neal Brown and bring in a coach all before signing day. I guess now looking back, that was a pipe dream and super unrealistic to think like that. But I don't know. Things can still change. Neal Brown took over as coach in January. So who's to say that they don't move on after signing day and make a move? I don't know. Like I said, it's a situation that's in flux moving forward. I think right now the reports are Neal Brown's returning. I think that's probably happening. I said in a previous live stream, I was like 55 or 60% sure Neal Brown was returning. Now I'm probably 80 to 90% sure Neal Brown is returning. But, you never know. Still, until you get to, spring football, at least, you never know. Kenny says, I heard the chances for us getting much higher because they didn't have enough 6 and 6 to fill the bowls. They need about 7 or 8. To make a bowl game. Yeah. I've been hearing more and more reports on that. So we'll see how it turns out. I know the last time WVU had 5 wins, that the reason they didn't make it is because it was something like academically they weren't high enough on some type of scale. So personally, I'm not counting on it. I don't think it's going to happen, but apparently it's not out of the realm of possibility. Let's see if I can catch up here a little bit more. James Blankenship agrees here. He says JT is done with WVU. Nico is the future quarterback. Harvey Baker says the future is green, in my opinion, or Harvey Barker, excuse me, Harvey. Appreciate you tuning in and chiming in, though. But, yeah, that's the next debate, of course. That's going to be a topic this offseason is the quarterback battle between Garrett Green and Nico, because in my opinion, I agree with James Blankenship here. JT has done WVU as well. Okay, so having said that, y'all continue. Drop your comments, questions, concern, thoughts on the hire of Wren Baker, thoughts on Neal Brown coming back in 2023, anything, the candidates, whatever you want to talk about, continue to drop those in. But I'm going to continue to get to my second talking point of the 3 that I have here with you guys. But you guys have been great showing out in large numbers and, of course, tuning in and chiming in as always, which we always appreciate. And if you're in here, whether it's live or if you're watching this on a playback, drop us a like, give us a thumbs up. It really helps us here. Subscribe to us if you haven't already, especially if you're a WVU fan. Helps us, helps you, helps get more of this Mountaineer sports content out to Mountaineer Nation. That being said, Wren Baker has been named West Virginia's new vice president and athletic director here today on November 30th of 2022. Official press release coming out from the university just before 2 p.m. But went through that press release earlier. If you want to go back and, if you're in here live and just popped in, want to go back and rewind, catch that, or wait on the playback to catch that, you can. But also wanted to get into the reaction. No, not from the WVU side, because we kind of all probably know what the reaction has been in regards to that. But you may not know how Wren Baker, great WVU former basketball player and now current announcer, but Wren Baker, how he was thought of amongst, some of the people that knew him on the North Texas side of things. I got some tweets here. I believe there's about 4 of them that our friend Ethan Bach here, friend of the program, also a part of the WVU Sports Now team there, as he is one of their lead writers there and covers West Virginia basketball and West Virginia sports for them. I believe he's their men's basketball lead writer and also covers recruiting there. Actually, here as you see it on the screen now, basketball recruiting analysis for the Porter Report, West Virginia men's basketball for WV Sports Now. Awesome follow on Twitter if you're a Mountaineer fan, so definitely do that. As you see his handle here at Ethan Bach _. And also wanted to credit Wesley Euler, who I believe he credits in his tweet as well. If you don't know Wesley Euler, you should as well. In the Gun podcast, him, Jed Drenning, Owen Schmidt, great work, and Ears and Beers as well. West Virginia podcast that has some good content. But here's the kind of reaction from some of the North Texas side. See if I can pull these up full screen for you guys so you can read them a little bit better, but I'll read through them as well. Y'all are getting the best AD in CUSA. Great coaching hires, great guy, just all around good person, from one follower there. Got another here. This is from an angry North Texas sports fan. He was a great athletic director. Raised the level of our athletics across the board, from facilities to coaching to nutrition, etc. He definitely left this place better than he found it. And a couple more here. He has been a great athletic director. I figured he would move on to the Power 5 soon enough, but still hate to see him go, with a sad face there. And then one more from another North Texas fan. He's great. The University of North Texas has become a championship program in every sport but volleyball and women's basketball. Some of the best facilities in Group of 5 now. So I wanted to share that with you guys as well, just so you could see kind of the reaction of some of the North Texas fans and some people over their side of the things. So, if you're on the fence about Wren Baker, or if you don't know about him, which I think is really kind of the status of most Mountaineer Nation, is they just don't really know about Wren Baker enough for it to be a hire that they're excited about. So everyone's kind of meh, or like me personally, if you're asking my reaction, I'm like, it's fine. It's fine. Not upset about it, Of course, we would all love to see a big name like a Rob Mullins or something like that. And I think that's in turn why Mountaineer Nation is a little disappointed. And I think, of course, with the Neal Brown reports, which we'll talk about here momentarily, coming in accordance with the Wren Baker announcement, has Mountaineer Nation feeling a little bit down. But I also just want to tell you guys, just because it's an athletic director from the Group of 5, it's it's a completely different situation than like a coaching situation. I think people are looking at it that way. But good athletic directors come from all places. It's a completely different situation than a coach. West Virginia apparently wanted to hire a sitting athletic director, but if they hadn't, I think, it could have been a good hire. And I think that this definitely has the potential to be a really good hire for West Virginia, specifically talking NIL and things like that, and fundraising. I think it's really good for West Virginia in those regard, which I think is what they were really looking for. But appreciate you guys, tuning in, chiming in. We've ran through the university's press release on the hiring of Wren Baker, and now have kind of looked a little bit about the reaction from the North Texas side of things. Credit to Ethan Bach on Twitter and Wesley Euler on Twitter for those. But then finally, of course, you guys continue to drop your questions, comments, concerns, questions you have about the hire, thoughts you have about the hire, anything like that. Drop it in there. WVU football related, WVU basketball related, any WVU questions, comments, concerns you have, drop them in the chat. We'll continue to address them throughout. But one final talking point, of course, and it's probably the one that a lot of people have tuned in for, because I think this kind of moved under the radar a little bit more so than the hiring announcement. It seemed to me like it kind of slipped under the rug. But along with the announcement of Wren Baker's return is more reports that Neal Brown will indeed return as WVU football coach in 2023. I think about, a week and a half to 2 weeks ago now, ESPN came out with a similar report to this, but it was more so seemed like speculation. And even on my end, when I was reporting that report from ESPN here for the Country Roads webcast, I told you I thought that I felt like that was because ESPN thought that West Virginia wasn't going to meet their timeline that they had established for the athletic director hire in the 3 to 4 week frame, which they did meet. But it turns out that ESPN may have been, right after all, because as soon as the hire broke, reports began to come out from, various sources that Neal Brown will indeed return as WVU football coach in 2023. All the athletic administration, or not the athletic administration, I guess I should say the university administration, mainly Gordon Gee, had said following the firing of Shane Lyons was that it wasn't the first move of two. They wanted to reassure everyone that Neal Brown wasn't being fired. Before the season was over, they wanted to bring in a new athletic director to evaluate the program. So I think we all took that as, okay, they're bringing in a new AD, and then they're going to, move on from Brown or bring in a new coach, or at least that's what we were all hoping for. But I think they use that phrasing very methodically and very smartly, I guess you could say, because according to these reports that have come out today, yes, the new athletic director, who we now know is Wren Baker, is going to evaluate Neal Brown. But I think we all thought he would be evaluating Neal Brown over the next few days or weeks. And then he would say, oh, no, we got to move on. Because, as I've said and many others have said, what athletic director is going to come in and look at the state of the football program and say we should continue with this coach? It's probably not going to happen. But I don't think we took into account that this evaluation isn't happening in that short time frame in the next 2 to 3 weeks. This evaluation, the university is expecting it, according to these reports right now, as of course, like I said, situation in flux, as of November 30th here, just before 5 o'clock p.m. Eastern time. The university is expecting this evaluation to occur over the season of 2023, the football season, is at least what these reports are saying, which to me, not the best move. Let me just pull up the report and talk and, let you guys read it, from the sources before I get into my thoughts on it personally. Let me go ahead and share my screen with you guys one more time here for our final talking point. Like I said, continue to drop your questions, comments, concerns in the chat. We'll address them, of course, before we get out here. And after this final talking point, let you guys just talk and guide the conversation for however long that you guys want to continue in this live stream. Keep it going as long as you guys have some good topics and questions, comments to talk about. But let me pull up the screen and share it with you guys for my final talking point personally, which is the report that Neal Brown will return. And then I'll give you guys my thoughts on it. But let me just show you guys here. This came from Ross Dellinger at Sports Illustrated, who was the first one to break the news of the Wren Baker hire, then dropped this nugget. Actually, a couple of nuggets. It's an original tweet, and then he quote tweeted himself. But let me show you guys here. This is the original tweet. Right here, actually. Let me read the original tweet first. While new AD Wren Baker will evaluate Coach Neal Brown, the expectation is that evaluation will come over the next year instead of a matter of days. The expectation is that Brown will remain as coach in 2023. So like I said there, kind of prefacing this, we all thought the evaluation was kind of an immediate evaluation, but no, it's apparently going to be more of a long-term evaluation that's going to occur during 2023. Like I said, give my thoughts on that momentarily. And then he quote tweets himself and then has one more thought just to kind of reiterate to Mountaineer Nation maybe here, because I guess he thought kind of like I do that this news is kind of going under the rug with the athletic director hire taking the forefront, as well it should. But he says, to reiterate, though many expected a potential change at the head coaching position at West Virginia, Neal Brown is believed to be safe and will remain the coach in 2023, barring any unforeseen snags, sources tell at Sports Illustrated now. So I think that last language is, of course, interesting because, like I said, that kind of just affirms what I'm telling you guys, that it's a situation that's in flux and this could change. But as of right now, it appears Neal Brown is coming back. We saw ESPN report this, like I said, a week to 2 weeks ago. Sports Illustrated reporting it. And then let me pull up one more report of it real quick for you guys. Let me try and see if I can pull this one up. What's that? The other Murphy, I think it was who it was. But just as I try and pull this up, just to kind of give you guys my thoughts on the situation in regards to Neal Brown and West Virginia apparently choosing to, retain him for 2023, which, as I mentioned earlier and someone else in the chat mentioned as well, I think it's a timing thing. They're just too deep into this. And so at this point, I don't think it's necessarily a bad decision. But my issue with it is, one, why'd you wait so long then? That's the main thing. But my number two issue is if Neal Brown is on a short leash and he's being evaluated during 2023, I think it's arguable that West Virginia's 2023 schedule is just as tough as, if not even tougher than this schedule that West Virginia had in 2022. And West Virginia goes on the road to Penn State. I'm expecting to open the season. Also has to play Pitt out of conference. Out of conference going to be just as tough. So if Neal Brown starts 1-2, and, they're evaluating him, and you start 1-2 with losses to two rivals in Pitt and Penn State, will they not maybe just cut the cord then? So if it's such a short lease that you could potentially cut the cord mid-season next year, I just don't understand the thought process in keeping a lame duck coach, because we've seen this kind of even before, even with Shane Lyons. I don't want to say Dana Holgorsen was a lame duck, but he had to get, his extension when he did because he, got that 10-win season that year. But I think Shane Lyons ultimately at the end of the day wanted to bring in his own guy, as Wren Baker probably wants to bring in his own hire, especially being an athletic director that's never made a football coaching hire before and kind of more known as a basketball guy. But one more time, let me share the screen with you guys. Also, just to confirm, like I said, ESPN kind of reported this a couple weeks ago. Sports Illustrated reporting it and also Brett McMurphy here, as you've seen from the Action Network, working on their side as well, just for one final report. So you see it coming from multiple reports now, and when that's kind of the situation, kind of the scenario, then it definitely is probably true that this is coming from, West Virginia officials and stuff leaking this to the media to get it out. That Neal Brown right now is believed to be returned, but I think they've also maybe put in there those caveats that, at this time, because like I said, it's a situation that's in flux. There's many things that can change. I don't think this means that we won't hear any staff changes. I think something's got to give. They're not going to be able to go through, next year with the complete coaching staff, and who knows what's going to happen as the coaching carousel spins. But Brett McMurphy here also reporting, as you see, with the hiring of new West Virginia AD Wren Baker, the belief is Coach Brown will return next season. Sources told the Action Network. Earlier report by Ross Dellinger, which I just shared with you guys as well. So that's all I've got, as far as, my talking points and things I wanted to share with you guys on my end. Just to recap, Wren Baker named West Virginia's new vice president, athletic director, chosen over some other group of 5 candidates that were believed to be in the mix after West Virginia moved on for potential Power 5 candidates for athletic director. And then in turn with that, at the same time, reports being released that Neal Brown will return as West Virginia football coach in 2023 rather. I struggle with saying 2022 and 2023 for some reason. I want to add that extra 20 in there every time I try and say both those. But anyways, I digress on that. That's all the talking points I had. Went through the university's press release on Wren Baker, kind of the reaction on their side, and then a couple of the reports in regards to Neal Brown returning. But that being said, I want to encourage you guys one more time before we get out of here. I won't stay here too much longer with you guys, but as long as you guys got questions, comments, thoughts, I will stick around. Drop those in there, whether it be in regards to Wren Baker's hiring, Neal Brown returning in 2023, the Shane Lyons bombshell, the status of the West Virginia Athletic Department, the administration, basketball season, the future of football. There's all kinds of talking points to talk about right now in regards to Mountaineer Athletics. So this certainly won't be our last live stream in the near future where we can talk about it with you guys. But if you're in here right now, drop any thoughts you have. And, one more time, if you're in here, drop us a like, subscribe if you haven't already. But let me catch up in the comments, and you guys drop your final thoughts in here. Kind of already gave mine, but want to catch up with you guys in the chat and talk about anything you guys want to talk about before we get out of here on this special emergency edition of the Country Roads webcast, I guess you could say, with the athletic director hire breaking and Neal Brown potentially returning as well. Let's see what we got here. Where did we leave off in the chat? Here we are. James Blankenship, in regards to Wren Baker, says this guy may be the shot in the arm the football program needs. Yeah, it's definitely has that potential. But also, as I said earlier, I don't think just bringing in a new athletic director is going to be enough to sell the fan base and reunite the fan base. I think there's going to be some other moves that have to happen. I don't know what those moves are personally, but something's going to have to happen, because right now, I don't think you've done enough, especially with reports coming out of Neal Brown returning, Shane Lyons' comments, just everything that's happened in succession. I don't think you've done enough to turn around season ticket sales. We saw poor attendance at the end of the season, announced attendance of 37,000 for that game against Kansas State. The first time I can remember in the past, decade at least, if not longer, that West Virginia announced an attendance below 40K. So there's going to have to be something that has the football program and gives it a boost that they need. I think the hiring of a new athletic director has the potential to add to that, but there's going to have to be other moves as well. But I agree with you, James Blankenship. I think that he's a young guy, energetic guy that's, checks all the boxes they were looking for in regards to, fundraising and NIL, which seemed to be the main thing there. Luke Bart says, I just wish they would go public and say he's going to stay if that's the case. As do I, Luke. And maybe, like I said, Wren Baker's press conference is scheduled for Monday. Maybe they'll say as much in his press conference there. But I also think where you're seeing it come from multiple networks, whether it's came from ESPN, Sports Illustrated, Action Network, that doesn't happen by accident. I know maybe Action Network's just reporting the report, but someone leaked that to Ross Dellinger as well. So I think, maybe that's their way of doing it, but I agree with you. Just go public and let us know as a fan base so we know for sure and can, plan ahead, whatever you want to do there moving forward. But hopefully in that press conference, like I said, coming up Monday morning, Wren Baker's introductory press conference, I'm sure he'll have to touch on the status of the football program and the football coach, one would think. James Blankenship again here says firing Neal Brown would be crazy. I'm not happy with the record the last 4 years, but we would lose lots of recruits. Plus, who are they going to hire that's better? I personally, I just don't like that aspect of thinking, who are they going to hire that's better? For some reason, that always seems to be our line of thinking. We even thought that with Dana. And then, of course, hiring Neal, most people thought we upgraded at the time. That's an argument to be made now 4 years later. But I agree, there's always candidates out there, James, to the latter part of your question. But to the former part, saying firing Neal Brown now would be crazy. I don't think it would be crazy necessarily, but I do think West Virginia just waited too long. Personally, in my opinion, Gordon Gee, the administration, board of governors, whoever it falls on, they waited too long, whether it be waiting too long to fire Shane Lyons or whatever. In waiting as long as they did now with the timing, I don't want to say it would be crazy, but it would just be ill-timed to fire Neal Brown now. Kenny says Tom Herman doesn't have a spot. Yeah. You've seen, I went ahead and put it out because, at the time I was pretty much, like I said, I was 55, 60% sure Neal Brown was returning anyway. And I'd already put together this list of like almost, I think it was 25 names of potential, head coaching candidates West Virginia could target if they moved on from Neal Brown. I was like, well, I'm not just going to not put this out just because Neal Brown's returning, but I went ahead and put it out anyway. So on our channel, you can see, a video of some candidates that I would like if West Virginia was in a head coaching search right now. And, I took into account Hugh Freeze taking the Auburn job and some of those. So that's why you don't see some other names on there. But Tom Herman, I think, would be a great candidate. And as I said in that video, and I'll say now, it pains me to say that because I'm not a fan of Tom Herman at all, personally, just on a personal level, but his resume kind of speaks for itself. He would be a good candidate. I think there's good candidates out there, James. Go check out that video and maybe you'll feel differently. But I agree, timing-wise right now, firing Neal Brown, maybe not the best move for West Virginia. Not saying it won't happen, not saying it can't happen, but I'm saying the likelihood of it is very, very small. We're talking Lloyd Christmas, Dumb and Dumber percentage chances at this point. I think Neal Brown will be your head coach of West Virginia in the 2023 football season. Not what I would have chosen personally, but that's what we've got and what we're going to do moving forward. And we're going to cheer the Mountaineers on no matter what. And we'll see what else happens on the staff moving forward. Kenny says Gordon Gee didn't want Neal Brown to leave the good old boy program. Maybe. I think that Shane Lyons' comments show you how highly regarded Neal Brown is within, the West Virginia program. So if Gordon Gee shares those same sentiments, then yeah, I think maybe he was coming back all along, as many people have said. But if we wait too long, he will be hired somewhere really soon. I don't know who. I'm not sure. Oh, you talk about Tom Herman. Yeah, Tom Herman's going to wind up somewhere here in the near future, Kenny. Indeed. I agree with that 100%. 100%. And, speaking of, the coaching carousel is spinning. So I'm not saying this in reference to Neal Brown because I really don't think he's going to leave and go anywhere and pull a Dana Holgorsen. But, West Virginia's staff members, who knows, some of them may decide to go elsewhere. Some of them may be asked to go elsewhere. I do think you will see Neal Brown back, as I said earlier, but I don't think you will see the complete coaching staff that you saw in 2022 return for next season in 2023. I think there will be some changes. What those are, I don't know, and I don't want to speculate on, but there's definitely going to be more news moving forward in the off season. We'll have more emergency live streams like this when those things do break, and try and keep you updated along the way if we hear anything about what those things may be. So we will definitely be doing more live streams like this, and appreciate you guys that tune into these, which I'm currently streaming live on the Country Roads Webcast, Facebook, YouTube, and Twitch pages. Tune into any one of those three that you want to. Jump in the chat on any one of those three that you want to. We always appreciate the live engagements, whether it be questions or just comments in regards to whatever the topics that we're talking about that day are. But there'll be plenty more of these live streams coming up. Basketball post-game show still going on. Going to have a CRW Hoops podcast releasing in the next couple of days. And who knows what else may pop up news-wise that we may have to do a podcast episode on. But also in turn, any shorter news updates you can find here on the CRW YouTube page. So if you're not on there, if you listen to this on the audio side, hop over to the YouTube channel, give us a subscription there. Extra Mountaineer sports content there, whether it be, short news updates or anything like that moving forward. But like I said, we'll have probably maybe more thoughts on this athletic director hire. Definitely more thoughts on the coaching staff and Neal Brown moving forward in future live streams. Look out for basketball post-game shows. Like I said, CRW Hoops podcast episode releasing in the coming days. And then I'm also going to do a couple of things on the football side. I'm going to do a season stat recap. I'm trying to keep up with the transfers out, transfers in, do a better job of keeping up with West Virginia's roster on a running kind of schedule throughout the offseason. So going to have that for you guys. So just because it's the offseason football-wise doesn't mean we're going to stop putting out content and maybe even pumping out at just the same rate, if not even higher, with the news, basketball season, and the off-season things that I've got planned in store. So no better time than now to come over to the Country Roads webcast and subscribe. And as James Blankenship says here in the chat, hit the like button, people. Yeah, do us a favor. It really helps us out. Whether you're watching this live, whether you're watching this on the playback, even if you hate the video, still hit the like button. Doesn't mean you necessarily like it. It just really helps WVU overall. And that's what we're all concerned about, right? Is helping Mountaineer Nation. And another way to help Mountaineer Nation is you can get more of this Mountaineer sports content out to them by subscribing to the channel here at the Country Roads webcast. So final thoughts here in the chat. Kenny says, hopefully Jordan Leslie has gone in, Matt Moore. I don't think either one of those two will be gone personally. Jordan Leslie more likely than Matt Moore, in my opinion, but I don't think it'll be those two. Jordan Leslie has a small chance, but I don't think it'll happen just because of how the defense kind of played the last 4 games. I think they kept West Virginia in a lot of those. And, I've talked about that in the past, and I'll talk about that further. But like I said, I've been wrong before. I'll be wrong again. It's definitely possible, Kenny. And you guys go over, check out Kenny as well. Before I close out, let me mention him as well. WVU Mountaineer Lair with Kenny, as you see on the screen there, has a YouTube channel where he talks WVU and college football. Does a great job there. But that being said, appreciate you guys tuning in here to this emergency live stream with the hiring of Wren Baker as West Virginia's vice president and athletic director, as well as the reports. And it appears that Neal Brown will return as West Virginia's football coach in 2023. So we'll have more thoughts on those topics moving forward in the future, as well as Mountaineer basketball content coming out, off-season football content, and any other news updates that may occur along the way. Check it out from us here at the Country Roads webcast. Appreciate you guys that have tuned in and chimed in. That being said, as always, I'm Jordan Cruz, and until next time, let's go Mountaineers.